piqued my curiosity. Why would you want to move away from the U.S.?
I do not feel welcomed in that place. You know, I always say that I don't feel like an American. I feel like a black person in America.
Okay.
And there's a big difference. I know some people might not get that.
What has it been like here on the continent?
I mean, if I could sum it up in a gesture, a sound, I would just, do a sigh of relief, it's peaceful.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? I'm here in Nairobi, Kenya, and I could not leave here without introducing you to my sister. She is from, well, a lot of places. Chi-Town by way of Louisiana, but we actually got dual citizenship in Sierra Leone.
Yes, indeed.
And I found out that you were living here in Nairobi, and so it just led to a lot of questions, and we're really going to have a good conversation because Simone is going to really explain why she decided to move to Kenya.
Yes.
And I guess some of your experiences here on the continent. You're like a world traveler. You speak multiple languages. I mean, to really hear her flow is just is amazing. So anyway, welcome, Simone. How you doing?
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so let's dive into this.
Okay.
Why Nairobi, Kenya?
Why? Okay. Well, initially, I wasn't set on Kenya specifically, wasn't set on Nairobi. I came to the continent in March of this year, March of 2021,
Okay.
and I knew I wanted to settle down on the continent, wasn't sure where. As of last year, I had only been to one country on the continent, which was Morocco.
Got it.
But I knew I wanted to settle down somewhere on the continent. I had a lot of research on a lot of different countries, but I had never actually visited a lot of the countries that I was thinking about relocating to, repatriating to. So I decided to, all right, after COVID hit, I wasn't able to work. So I took my savings and said, all right, well, I'm going to come to the continent. I'm going to visit those places that I've done so much research on, and I'm going to decide where I want to live, what's a good fit for me.
Not just visit, but actually live.
Live. That was the ultimate goal. That's the goal.
So you wanted to move away.
Yes, most definitely, from the U.S.
Interesting.
Yes.
All right, now that kind of piqued my curiosity. Why would you want to move away from the U.S.?
I do not feel welcomed in that place. I always say that I don't feel like an American. I feel like a black person in America.
Okay.
And there's a big difference. I know some people might not get that, but those of us who know, we know.
Well, explain it a little bit. So the person who's watching right now, because it's definitely a hot button issue when people hear it. Are we black? Are we African? Are we African American? Do we feel where's home? A lot of those different cultural things we face. But for you in particular, there's a reason why you say that. So what is your reason?
For me, if we want to go into is America home, for me the answer is no, it's not. It's where I was born. It's where all of my family was born. It's where I grew up. But it still never felt like home. It's a very strange feeling to have. I have a lot of friends who have moved from their original countries, from their native countries, their native lands, and they've become expats in different countries, various countries. But for them, they might feel that feeling of not being completely welcome. However, that's different from us because they always know they have a home. Like let's say someone from Nigeria relocates to the UK. Okay, there's for sure going to be racism in the UK, or they're going to experience those feelings of not feeling completely welcomed where they are now. But they always know, you know what, I'm Nigerian, and when I go to Nigeria, it feels like home. I never had that feeling in the US. I never felt like it was home, and part of the reason I didn't have that feeling is because it's not our original home. So I feel like that's always a glaring reality. We might have been born there, we might have grown up there, but America always has a way of letting us know that you're an outsider. And I always felt othered in the U.S.
Understood. And I know that, again, like I said, it's a hot button topic because there's some people who feel as though people who are of African descent, feel as though America is their home. They feel as though this is the land of the free and the home of the brave and the land that they love. They pledge allegiance and they've done that. So it's just interesting to hear that perspective and then to hear the other perspectives. Now, with that feeling, how do you think that affected you growing up, if at all?
Right. It was an awakening because I know I didn't always feel like that. I also grew up pledging allegiance to the flag and, you know, on 4th of July, it's like, oh, yay, Independence Day, yay, and wearing my red, white, and blue. But the more that you learn, the more that you realize, okay, you know, we didn't get our independence on this day. You know, I'm pledging allegiance to the nation that stole my ancestors. I'm pledging allegiance to the nation that has done so much harm to my people. There's a lot that started to feel wrong and a lot that I just started to have issues with, you know. And also, as I got older, the more experiences I had with racism, it became a glaring kind of sore in my eye where it's like, this is not, you know, I had to realize, does America, you know, does it feel like home? Has it done anything to try to make me feel at home here?
Well, I mean, you know, you got the Civil Rights Acts and you have all the different things, right? You know, so, but why weren't you able to just put it in the past and get over it? Why just move past? You got
well, because it's not in the past.
Y'all
you
see
know?
where I'm going? Y'all see I'm walking this down. Huh?
One reason it's hard to put in the past is because it's not over. You know, it's not like the racism has ended and now we can start again. Now we can start again healing this wound. America as a nation continuously digs into that wound and continuously makes it glaringly clear that there's differences here. The treatment is different amongst races. There's tiers, there's levels, there's a hierarchy.
But you have pundits, very popular so-called African-American pundits, who would say that racism is not the case. And she's very vocal about, you probably, I don't advertise people on my platform unnecessarily, but she's very popular. And a lot of, and she's been very vocal about saying that racism doesn't exist, and it's something that we're making up, and it's being exploited, which are, to some extent, there are, you know, you have two sides of a coin where I can see some people may exploit some aspects of it, but in her particular case, when we hear those who are white who say this, it's almost understandable because they're somewhat disconnected from it. But when you hear a supposed African American person say racism doesn't exist, it's non-existent, we need to get over it and kumbaya. How do you feel about that?
Well, I feel as though, okay, for me, I feel like we can just look at data, and there are a lot of statistics that just simply don't support that. When we talk about incarceration rates, if we're talking about health in various communities, how different the health outcomes, you know, and death rates are for different races. To me, it's very clear that, okay, there are a lot of differences. I feel like if we just follow the differences, it becomes more and more clear, like, oh, okay, wow, there are certain things that are systemic. There are certain things that the system in America are creating, helping to create. Yeah, I hear what you're saying about,
because there are a lot of us out here
Yes.
that will say that it doesn't exist, we need to get over it.
Now, that's not, for me, that's not saying that we don't have work to do and we don't have things that we can actively do.
I mean, these people are saying it does not exist.
Right, and to me that's the difference, because there's always something I can look at racism, and I can look at my situation, and I can see things where I can do to I can find my power in different situations, and see what I can do to improve those situations, that doesn't take away from the systemic things that have contributed
Now I got a good question
to
for
my
you.
situation.
See, you're good with this.
Okay.
So do you think racism is the same for every African American? Is it a
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I feel like I understand people have different experiences, right? Not to take away from anyone's experience, but I feel like when someone says racism doesn't exist, they're taking away from
So they're almost like gaslighting people.
right?
Okay.
And I'm not saying that every African American in the U.S. or every Black person in the U.S. has experienced racism. That's not what I'm saying. But I feel like for someone to say racism doesn't exist, that is what they, in turn are saying for those of us who are telling you, who are screaming, yes, it does. This is my experience. This is what has happened to me. This is what has happened to my family. This is what has happened to my offspring. So for someone to just take that blanket statement and say, no, everything you're saying, everything this person's saying, everything this person's saying, we have millions of people with different experiences who are telling you, well, this is my experience and I have experienced racism personally. For that person to say, no, you haven't, that is gaslighting, and I don't think that when it comes to the reverse of that, I don't hear many people trying to say like, oh, well, for someone who's saying I've never experienced racism, you don't have a lot of people who are saying, yes, you have.
Right.
It's like, okay, maybe you haven't, maybe you lived in there, maybe that hasn't been your experience. So I feel like it's just illogical to come the other way and say that, you can't speak for those people who are clearly telling you that they have had this experience and tell them that no, they haven't.
What do you think? What effect do you think that has on someone who says, if they hear their feelings are being dismissed, basically gaslighted, which could then contribute to the frustration
Yes.
that might be felt? How do you think that affects those people? Because whenever I hear it, I try to listen for what the point is.
Right.
When somebody says something, well, no, it doesn't exist anymore. And I will say that this young lady, she makes a lot of valid points, not so much in that regard, but when it comes to other systemic and social issues, she's able to, she's very
Articulate.
very articulate, very intelligent. And so people call her dumb and crazy. I said, no, you got to really listen to what she's saying. Now, my personal opinion about her is that she's being paid. She's one of those people, she's been recruited by a particular team, and they're saying, hey, we will fund you and do X, Y, Z, and that's kind of like the American way. That's going down a different road. But so to not dismiss some of the valid points that she makes, how do you think when those who have gone through what you're talking about, when they hear that and they see it from a cultural perspective, their feelings being dismissed, what do you think the impact is on them?
I feel like anytime you're invalidating someone's feelings, it, for one, it's frustrating, it's angering, but also it makes you feel like you can't trust your own judgment. And if you're getting to a point where you can't trust yourself, that's not a good place to be in, because there's so many times where all we have is ourselves, our own understanding of how things work. So if you're relying on someone else's understanding instead of your own, like, that's not a way to go through life. I feel like we've got to, at the end of the day, we have to understand what gaslighting is.
Right.
And we can't let our feelings and our experiences be invalidated or dismissed by whatever rhetoric. I don't care if it's coming from white people, from other blacks, from whoever, from people on the continent, off the continent. We have to have faith and clear understanding in what we know. I also think it's very important to be factual about things, because there's certain things where I feel like can be dispelled just by facts. I'm very big on just truth. We have to be truth tellers.
But then you have a culture that seeks to alter the truth.
True.
You understand? It's like, I'll give an example. Here in Kenya, we had a chance to go to Fort Jesus.
Yes.
And if you recall, when I was there, I was like, there's something, they're telling me that this place was not used for the slave trade. I said, but I'm looking at the history and the facts of how the Portuguese operated historically. By the time the tour ended,
Yes.
he finally admitted the facts. So people are trying to alter the facts. So how do we, in in America discern what the facts are, because you have people that are trying to. We had history books that were flawed.
Most definitely.
Have YouTube and Google that have flawed information.
Right.
We have people who have a lot of money that are determined to change the facts. So how do we get to the facts? And
I feel like investigation, you know, because there's certain things that, as we're finding out, you know, with time, certain things can't be covered up. So I feel like a lot of things that we're being told with investigation, with research, things come to the light. You know, there's I don't know how many just in the last year. You know, if we go from beginning of 2020 and we look at where we are now at the end of 2021, there's so much that has been now widely discussed and talked about. This information was there, but it was hidden, you know, and it's only from investigation and people bringing this information to the forefront and having these conversations that now there's some information that's becoming more and more widespread. You know, if you asked someone a couple of years ago about some various cities that have been, has it ever happened that, you know, a black city has been destroyed? No. Why would America do that?
And then
you know,
after Tulsa comes out.
Right. And then after Tulsa, you know, there's so many others that have been uncovered and talked about now. Just even in the last, we're talking about year and a half.
That's
time.
right. The ones that were submerged in water.
Right. Yes. You know, we're talking about from all the way from New York to Louisiana, Opelousas. There's been so many, of course, Tulsa, Oklahoma, all of these.
Right.
There's
and then
so
the highways
many
that would be run through.
Completely destroying our neighborhoods. Yeah. You know, so there are a lot of things that have deliberately been done, and the information has been there. It's not like, you know, this wasn't recorded at the time it happened. It's just that, you know, I know people who are from Tulsa that when conversations about the decimation of that city started taking place and in a more wide context, they were like, oh, no, that didn't happen. And I never learned about that.
And I guess that goes to the educational system.
Exactly.
And what's in the curriculums and the importance of educating ourselves. But then from what you're saying is digging deeper, because there's so much information. Because even in my studies, I have seen like the same information but told from two different perspectives, and the information would be completely opposite, opposing information. So so that's why it's, to your point, it's important to do the investigation. All right, you have done a great job. You know, just I mean, I'm listening to you and I'm saying, wow, you've processed this in a way that is easy to understand, and then someone who's trying to figure out how to do it, they understand why you're saying you never felt at home in America based upon your experience. And now that you have been away from America, what has it been like here on the continent?
I mean, if I could sum it up in a gesture, a sound, I would just, you know, do a sigh of relief, you know. It's peaceful. There's a peace that is here that I never experienced in America. I never experienced in the U.S. There's like it's almost like a hug, an instant hug, a welcoming that I have experienced here on the continent that I never experienced personally in the U.S. It's peaceful. It's peaceful.
But the narrative in America is that it's war torn and everybody's sick and dying.
You know, I don't even want to.
I'm just saying, that's what they tell us. They tell us everybody's sick and dying.
I have definitely. I have my best friend, her brother-in-law. You know, old white man who hasn't been anywhere, hasn't traveled outside of the U.S. But he actually told me when he was asking me about Kenya and told me, oh, but why would you leave LA to go there? He's like, Kenya's disgusting. I hear that they, you know, treat women terribly. They do this and this, that. And I was just like, what are you talking about? This is coming from someone who's never left the country, doesn't have a passport, but is trying to inform me about my experiences. Once again, gaslighting, you know. And so am I going to to say, oh yeah, yeah, he must be right. No, I know what I've experienced. I know the experiences I've had here. I know when I look around and see, where I am,
Yeah, yeah.
and
But there's a
and
lot of that though. There's a lot of people who don't have a strong enough resolve within themselves to say, you haven't been anywhere. What do you know? And they
you
just
know,
listen and they go with the flow of what they hear. I heard. I
right.
heard. I mean, and I'm guilty of that. That's why I'm on the mission that I'm on, because for years I heard,
Right.
I heard, and I never came to see.
Right.
So
That was never good enough for me. Even as a child, one word that was always I'll give you two words that were always used to describe me: curious and passionate. So I'm the kind of person that, for starters, I'm going to seek out that information. I'm going to seek out truth. And secondly, when I find that truth, what am I going to do with it? My passion doesn't allow me to just take new information and just, pocket it, put it in the back of my mind. No, when I receive new information, I act on it, and so when I came to understand, like, wow, a lot of things that they're telling us about this continent are just straight up false. What that led me to want to do is to come see for myself, visit, just have actual experiences where I could tell others, yeah, I know that this person said that, but guess what? That person hasn't been there. That person doesn't know what they're talking about. Let me tell you my experience as an actual person who's been there, and come see. You're welcomed here. You're welcome to have your own experiences.
what I hear from you is a person who is not content with listening to what other people just simply say.
Ever.
Well, how can we inspire more of that among people in general,
Right.
regardless of ethnicity? Because that is the biggest thing I hear. It's like someone will try to tell me.
What you
They want to try to
know.
gaslight my experience on the continent. Like when I was in Egypt, I had a great time with people who would be considered Arab Egyptians. But folks wanted to come and tell me, oh, they still don't like you. And I said, well, I know the experience that I had. So how do we encourage, and I push back hard, because I was like, well, you can tell me that all you want, but that people who may think like the way we do, they're curious and they want to know,
Right.
but then they have this chatterbox of ignorance in
Right.
their ear. How do you encourage them?
I feel like there's a lot of people who may be inquisitive about certain things, but they're also combating that spirit of fear. And a lot of fear has been instilled in us. Not to say that I'm unaware of why. We coming from, this is part of the trauma of slavery. Coming out of that and coming from families that we didn't have the luxury, we didn't have the privilege of being able to send our kids off to just wherever. Oh, okay, I want to visit so and so. Oh, go ahead. Everything will be fine. Everything wasn't fine. You couldn't send your kids off. You couldn't go off yourself and venture into unknown places. That meant death a lot of times. That could have been a lynching. That could have been a beating. That's the trauma that we're coming out of as African Americans. So, that there was a point in time that's not that long ago. Like my mother was born in the early 50s. So her experiences growing up, people during that era, there was a lot of valid fears that they had
So
about.
you think a lot of the fears that we hear now have been passed down?
Most definitely.
And that's one of the reasons why we're afraid to travel, or we're afraid. And of course,
Most
this
definitely.
is not all of us. Many of us do travel. Many of us have broken through that.
But it's definitely something that has had to be broken through, because as a safety measure, for your own protection and survival, you had family members telling each other, like, don't go over there. We don't know anybody over there. We come from families that had to experience going places that were strictly out of this green book, because we couldn't go.
The green book. Okay.
We couldn't go everywhere.
Yeah.
We couldn't. That's just factual. We couldn't just have a leisurely drive cross country and stay at any hotel we wanted to. That wasn't our reality. So to me, it's not confusing as to why we have a lot of lingering remnants of that fear. Like, okay, well, do you know anyone over there? When I moved to California, my family. No, I'd already been away from home for quite some time, but still, my family was like, well, do you know anyone there? well, we don't know people. We got to be careful. Why are you going all the way over there? Well, and it's out of love.
Right.
It's out of love. But I had to have enough confidence in myself, and my intelligence and my ability to assess situations. I'm not stupid. I'm not going to go do something that is stupid. It's going to put myself in harm's way or at risk. But I'm also not going to miss out strictly because of fear. I've done so wherever I've traveled. I've been to over 40 countries.
Oh, wow.
More than half of those have been by myself. I'm the solo travel.
So you a sister out
queen.
here traveling by yourself, because that comes up too. I'm afraid to travel by myself. I don't know. I'm afraid to. And it sounds like you have broken through a lot of that bondage, if you will, because you're willing over 40 countries by yourself.
Not all. No, I've
Not all of them.
over 20. It's
Over 20
definitely
by
been
yourself.
over half by myself.
Over half by yourself.
Yes.
But there's some people who are watching right now who have been gripped by this fear for their entire lives.
Yes.
And they've listened to, and so what encouragement would you have for that person who's like, I want to travel, I want to see the world, I want to do different things, but on the news they said, on the news, because it's always on the news. You heard what they said,
right?
You do what they said,
right? I would say the biggest deterrent for my fear is my own confidence in myself, confidence in my research, confidence in I know how to navigate situations. Now, I'm not saying I've always been like that. I didn't come out the womb traveling, but I do know where my power lies, and there definitely. Not to say that you can't be, like, fear is not a natural emotion or you can't be nervous about something, but there's a certain way that you can combat that fear. And I tell, especially, not only as a solo traveler, I'm also a Black person, and I'm also a woman, a pretty small, so I'm not, but with all of that being considered, I still, it's doable. It's definitely doable. I'm the hostel queen. I can.
So you can work it out wherever you go.
Right. I can.
A hostel is basically a place where a group of people live and they share a common area.
Right. And for me, I've learned that a lot of times that offers me more of a sense of safety, because there's other people. Even though we didn't come here together, but I see that, all right, well, there's other people here. There's these people that know my face, and they're going to be, oh, okay, well, where did Simone get back? Okay, it's just a quick way of forming a community.
Understood.
In my experience. And so there's just certain things you need to do. Just think about logically. Think about, okay, where am I keeping my belongings? Do I have a lock for my things on my little locker when I go into this hostel or this place? You don't need to tell everybody all of your business. You can be by yourself.
You don't need to do that in America.
Right,
Anywhere, tell everybody all your business.
Right.
All in your stuff.
You don't
know how folks are.
You just don't. It's not required. Someone asks you a question. You don't need to. You aren't obligated to tell them the truth. You're just not. You have to think about yourself, your safety, and your situation. You don't have to tell everyone, oh yeah, I'm by myself, or someone's asking you,
I got $300 in my bag.
Right, just you can. It's completely fine to share what you feel is logical, and appropriate to share. You don't have to tell everyone, even though you might be by yourself in a place. Everyone doesn't need to know that. It doesn't change your experience by saying, like, oh yeah, I'm meeting up with my friends later.
Yeah.
You don't have to be. It's just you have to be logical about things, and I feel like my own logic has kept me out of a lot of trouble. I haven't had any issues.
No, that's good. That's good to hear, because somebody watching who may feel some of the same feelings that you're feeling about their condition in America or UK or Canada or wherever they might be feeling it. And they're like, I want to explore and I want to see some things for myself. By you offering those words, it gives them, and someone who may look like them, to say, hey, listen, you know what? And this could be just a woman from any background, any ethnicity. This is not just a Black woman thing. It's just like saying, hey, these are things that I did over 40 countries, more than 20 solo. I think that says a lot. Now let's shift gears for a second.
Yes.
You went to Sierra Leone.
Yes.
Earlier this year. We both got dual citizenship in Sierra Leone. As a matter of fact, that's where we met.
Yes.
And we went through the whole process. What was that like for you?
Amazing. It was great. It was once I found out that I did have lineage from Sierra Leone, it was like, okay, it really wasn't a country that was on my radar like that. But then found out that I'm both from the Timni and Mende tribes.
Oh, well, my cousin.
Yes,
Let me
indeed.
find this
Yes,
my cousin right
indeed.
here. I'm Timine, just so y'all know I'm Timine. So you are from Timine and Mende.
Yes. Yes.
Wow. And that's on your mother's line.
Yes, it's my mother's line.
And you discovered that through African ancestry.
Through African ancestry.
All
Yep.
right. And I always got to shout out my friend Dr. Gina Page and all of what they're doing at AfricanAncestry.com.
Yes,
So that's how we were able to do it, because the way that the government of Sierra Leone has it set up is if you can prove through AfricanAncestry.com, in particular African Ancestry. Only, not 23andMe, not Ancestry, and not MyHeritage, but AfricanAncestry.com, then they are granting citizenship to those who can do that. What I found interesting is that some people kind of mock that. They're just giving out citizenships and all of that. And I just kind of stopped and I thought to myself, and of course it comes from us. It's anyway, I don't want to get on that. Every time though. But one of the things that I realized, and you might be able to connect with this or relate to it, we who are part of the African diaspora can probably claim most of West Africa, down through South Africa, and even coming up into some of East Africa, because our ancestors were stolen or taken. Any part that we can get back, it made sense for me to say, well, this is a no-brainer.
Most definitely.
And so, because guaranteed Sierra Leone, which was not even a country, this is new with the whole Berlin Conference.
These borders are
just,
their borders. So
borders.
I don't subscribe to.
Yeah, so it's like if I can go get a piece of this and to be able to help restore some of what was stolen, it was a no-brainer for me. Now that's just my 2 cents. And when I hear people, they're just giving out these citizenships, it's like we should have citizenship like along that whole thing based upon what happened, and so. But just that thought. But for you, what has it meant, the citizenship in Sierra Leone?
For me, it was also, I would have to say, a no-brainer. Once I found out that it was a possibility, I definitely was like, I want this. Especially because, as I was still in the States, still living in LA, trying to figure out where I wanted to be on the continent, that opened up one more door, so not sure where I'll end up, in the end. But I do know this, I already have, citizenship there in Sierra Leone. I'm able to have the rights of a citizen. I can purchase land, I can start a business.
You can vote.
I can vote.
You can run for office.
Hey, so it's definitely, it comes with benefits. And for someone, I can understand how for someone who takes no interest in being there, that okay, well, it might not matter, but for me, for someone that wants to be on the continent, it's like, okay, well, that's important.
Right.
And it's important that I have that not just the link of knowing, but I have that physical passport, I have the ability to actually make moves in that country. So for me, it's important, and I'm very glad I did it. Very glad I went through the process.
Yeah, and I feel the same as far as being able to go. I look forward to getting back to Sierra Leone and spending time there and really being among the people and learning more about the Timine tribe and the Mende tribe as well.
Yes.
And just connecting. And I mean, because it was funny, I was born in Charleston, South Carolina. In Freetown, Sierra Leone, and Charleston, South Carolina, they call them sister cities because many of the enslaved went directly to Charleston because they were rice farmers. And so when I was in Sierra Leone for the ceremony, they had all this rice, and it was white rice. So I said, wait a minute, in Charleston, in that area, it's white rice or either red rice, one of the two.
Red
and
rice.
It really felt very familiar being in Sierra Leone, and it was it's something that if someone has the opportunity to take advantage of dual citizenship in any country that they can descend from, I believe that's if it's something they're interested in, I believe that it can enhance their cultural experience. Do you think you'll ever, well, I know you go back to Sierra Leone,
Most
obviously.
definitely, yes.
Do you think that you'll perhaps make investments there or make some...
Yes, that's definitely my plan. I want to be an asset to the land of my ancestors. You know, that's definitely the plan. I'm here in Kenya now, in Nairobi now, but I definitely, for sure, plan on going back. For sure, plan on doing some investments there. Yeah, it's the future is very open for me right now. So yeah, that's definitely on my to-do list.
All right, I have a question for you. What have been some of the challenges you have faced? Because a problem that I see with a lot of people who are looking to maybe move to somewhere on the continent is they romanticize. In their mind, they're thinking Zamunda, Wakanda. They're thinking the latest video with Afro beats in it.
Right.
They're looking at the styles. They're saying, ooh, in Africa, you know, Nigeria has the fly stuff going on. You know, South Africa's got Ghana's hot right now. Sierra Leone is getting love. Kenya, obviously, Nairobi. Let me say something about Nairobi, Kenya. I've been to 13 countries in all the different cities, but this city right here, when I was in Lagos, I felt very, very familiar, blended in.
Right.
Love Lagos.
Right.
When I came to Nairobi, I was like, this feels like someplace I could live.
Yes.
So it's a very livable place. It's not a touristy kind of place. It's a livable place. And again, the hospitality has been great. So with that said, what have been some of the challenges that you faced wherever you've been on the continent?
Right. For me, challenges. Okay, I'm a very easyggoing person. You know, you could drop me anywhere.
You'll just figure it out.
I'll be okay. You know, I've lived in an RV before. You know, without electricity.
In LA?
In LA, without running water. You know,
But you lived in Spain.
I lived in Spain. I've lived in England. I've lived in the Caribbean.
Okay.
So
So you know different cultures.
Right.
Because again, you know, I know the mentality of people who happen to skim through these different YouTube streets.
Right.
So they might think, oh, she just that black girl going to Africa. She don't know nothing. She just trying to find herself. But you lived in England, Spain, because some folks need that. Some folks need the European validation in their mind. You feel what I'm saying? You know, some people need that.
And even
I
know
I am who I am. And so, you know, some people need white approval in order for you to prove your blackness. But that's a whole nother conversation. I'm not gonna go there right now.
It is.
So but go ahead and drop them that street cred for them Negroes who need to hear that you done been some places.
I've been quite a few, and those are just the places I've lived, right?
Okay.
You know,
Well, drop me some of these countries for the colonized Negro mind that need to know.
That I've just even been to. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of places I've spent a lot of time in that I haven't lived. You know, I've spent a lot of time in Japan, and France.
Yes, France.
You
Yes,
know,
yes. Give me some of them countries.
you know, I've been to most of all of Western Europe because I was living
Give me
there.
some
So
Asia, because they need to hear
in
Asia.
Asia.
Yeah.
You
Been
know,
to China, right?
Been to China,
Okay, come
been
on
to
now.
Japan. Malaysia and
do tell.
Vietnam and you know Thailand. So I've been around. You know,
You cultured. You all right.
You know.
You just didn't come to the continent.
That's
you ain't
right.
come to Africa. You ain't do it. You done been to some places. You done been to Paris.
I've done a little something.
You
You
done
know,
seen the Eiffel
took
Tower.
my mama to Paris. Was able to do that.
There you
You
go,
know,
girl.
was
That's
able
what
to.
I'm talking about. That's right. You done took your mama to Paris.
You know. So I've been around, but also there's a lot of these places.
I can't help it. I'm sorry.
You crazy. We know.
We know. Everybody
You know.
But I see the elephants in the room, and I know the mentalities in these YouTube streets, and so I'm not afraid to call it out. It might not make me the most popular,
Right.
But there are people who would listen to your story and think that you've only, she's the black girl trying to find herself. She having problems in America, but you've been to Mexico. So in understanding that.
In a lot of these European countries, you know, people see, oh, you know, this is beautiful, you know, Parisian streets and this and that, and France is like this. Yes, that's one side of it. But even, I mean, we have to think about how old some of these places are. So you have to know not every place in France or in Paris is like that. You know, there are places that are older that have, you know, these old kind of style homes and outhouses, and it's like, okay, well, depending on when it was built,
Right.
you know, there you have a lot of these remnants that are like, oh, okay, that's not what I was expecting, you know.
Or they don't talk about the fact that the wealth of Europe is because of the theft of Africa.
Yeah, no one seems to want to talk about
No,
that.
they don't want to talk about that. And it's really irritating because what it does, it still reinforces the white supremacy. So even when many of us come to the continent, our mindset, I always talk about brown bodies, white minds, and how when many of us, not all of us, because those of us who do venture here, most of us are trying to break free from something that we sense. So because of that, it's like what I see a lot of times, is we reinforce a lot of the things that we complain about, because we'll come here and we'll say, well, oh man, the streets are like this and this is that and the other. Oh, I can't believe how these people are living, and the governments need to do this, that, and the other. And it's like, do you understand? The reason why the streets are like this is because the people are not compensated for the natural resources that have been stolen for generations.
Right.
So how can they fix this?
And even to this day, they're not getting fair prices, you know, when it comes to international trade. Like, this is why, you know, conversations about racism, a lot of people want to have them as if we're talking about something in the past. I'm not talking about the past. I'm talking about the present. You know, like there are a lot of things that are currently happening that people don't really get the full scope of, like why, you know, when you go into the British National Museum, you go into the V&A, Victoria and Albert, there's so many,
where they robbed everything.
Yes,
One way
you know,
they
still
don't want to send the stuff back.
They're still charging tickets today to go into those museums. We're not talking about when they stole it even. Yes, that's definitely still very relevant. But even we're talking about today, we just look at the amount of money these museums have made off of 2021 alone, you know, 2019 alone. I don't know, just take out the whole COVID year.
Right. But they were probably still making money off of online streams or something.
True, you know, it's like we're talking about the effects that are still happening today, let alone the effects of because we can't just erase the past like it's not relevant. It is relevant. But even if we just look at today, the money that they're making off of Africa today, it's insane. So to think that, oh, okay, well, you know, it's not really part of the conversation. It's definitely a part of the conversation because it's still taking place. The exploitation is still taking place. You know, the theft is still taking place.
But what I find interesting is that so many of us in the African diaspora will come to this continent and complain like a bunch of spoiled children about the quote-unquote conditions, but yet we'll go back to our country and complain about the treatment that we received there.
Some of the same treatment.
Some of the
that they're giving.
It's the same thing, the same players, the same systems, but yet we will go back or come with the attitude looking, I can't believe these, without realizing that they're dealing with the same thing. And so that's the part I think is refreshing when I have conversations with very intelligent people, people like you and other people that I interview, and that's one of the reasons why I like to share your perspectives on this platform,
right? Because
it breaks through so much of that uppityness, that arrogance, that it's really sad because we're blind. So many of us, and I don't want to speak monolithically because a lot of us are coming out of it. But it's the blindness that so many of us have, that we believe that we're superior. We believe we have superior education, but but we're so miseducated when you come here and you see it.
Yeah, it is sad. I think the right word is sad because a lot of that mindset is based in pure ignorance, you know, and I mean that's part of what we need to dispel and try to. I wish that more of us had the desire to actively dispel some of these lies that we've been told.
But so many of us are so caught up trying to be white. So many of us are so caught up trying to be uppity Negroes and wanting to fit into their system so bad that we don't even care. But but my thing is, okay, just go be brown body, white mind, but don't cry foul. Just let it be. Just say, hey, just go. Now this is me. Now this is just my thought on it.
Right.
But I hear it more and more and more. And that's why I say it's refreshing to talk to you and hear how you're able to process it.
Right.
So what do we do? Or what are we going to say?
I feel like there's definitely so many of us who are dealing with the trauma of white supremacy, you know, and growing up in a white supremacist nation, being taught that, okay, this is less than, your hair is less than, your skin is less than, your nose is less than. Being taught these things from, you know, birth to whatever
Till
age we
death.
reach,
Right.
till death, you know,
Right.
really. And it's, a lot of people don't know how to process that other than to try to assimilate to whiteness, you know. And it's something that we as a people, that I have to actively fight. You know, there's a lot of things where I was just like, I'm not doing anymore. I'm not putting that creamy crack in my hair anymore. I'm not
Okay.
perming my hair. I'm not straightening my hair.
Okay.
I'm not trying to conform to these
You're not
standards.
bleaching your skin?
Well, that I never did, you know.
Now that's a problem they got on the continent.
Oh, yeah.
I
Oh,
saw some
yeah.
stuff somewhere. They're like, no, that's skin bleach cream right there. I was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, you know, and I have friends who are African who, you know, they might not even think of it like that. They're just like, oh, this is I've had a friend of mine say to me once, I was reading the ingredients and I was like, this lotion is a bleaching lotion. And she was like, this is the lotion I've always used. And you know, it hasn't even occurred to her, like, okay, but you've always been using a bleaching lotion then, because it's clearly a bleaching lotion.
And so it
you know,
didn't
and,
register.
and for her, it's just like, but it's the lotion my mama used on me.
Okay.
You know,
and
it's
that's
the
kind of
lotion
like
we
for
always.
us. I always talk about the similarities that we have because we have many of those types of passed down inferiority challenges.
Right.
You know, even in so-called black culture in America, we'll see where we will. I think we see the contradictions in our styles. So it's like, for example, we'll be marching for something. Except, I'll give it to you like this.
Please.
Once I said, I don't give a what you think about me. I am who I am. This is who I am. You can say whatever you want to say about me.
Right.
And I'm gonna give you the finger with my actions and how I live my life.
How you live your life.
And I'm saying it, and the reason why I'm being this direct is because we need to have these types of conversations just to say, you know, I'm not trying to conform, you know, and so once I got past trying to conform and to fit in, and I need my education and my degrees, and I need to let everybody know my credentials so they'll take me seriously.
Right.
It's like, look, my actions is like, this is how it is. So how can we get, because when you see different cultures,
Yes.
they come into America, they come into Africa, and they're like, look, we're going to do it. We know who we are. We're confident. What can we do to encourage, one, I guess, educate, but to get this,
that stronghold.
I need to fit in. I need to be accepted. I need to have a title in front of my name. I need to have letters behind my name.
Right.
I need to feel validated by your system. What can we do to help break that thing down?
I mean, I feel like I go back to I always fall back on the truth. I feel like there's a lot of things that the truth will dispel, you know, and there are a lot of times where you can, we have to start looking at, okay, well, whose education system is this? Like, who told us you need that degree? I'm completely for, you know, knowledge, and gaining knowledge.
We're not saying not be educated,
right? But I mean, just there's an importance that's placed on these degrees. You know, I have friends who, you know, we're in our mid-30s and they're still in school. You know, and it's like, why? Like, what? You know, it's almost like, yeah, well, I got this degree and I got that and I got my master's and I'm going for the. And it's like, what was the point?
Are they making money at all, or
some?
Okay.
Some, but also some are not making what they could be because so much of their time is consumed by being a student.
Okay.
You know, and it's kind of like, at what point are we going to actually live our lives and not be students? You know, especially for me, not just students, but students in a system that, I mean, I have this visceral reaction when it comes to all the white supremacy that is entrenched within our education system. It's very prevalent and it's relevant because you are in the system for so long. Your learning is skewed. There's no way for it not to be. You know,
because that's the curriculum.
That's the curriculum. You know, the curriculum was not created for us, wasn't created by us.
Right.
You know, so and it's not to discredit university or getting a degree, but it's always, to me, I note when people put a certain amount of emphasis on that degree. And I've learned to step back and look at things like, what is this doing for, like, what exactly is the linear value, like what's the linear correlation for, you know, the value of what I put into this degree and what I'm getting out of it.
What I see a lot of times. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I'm just saying, if it doesn't make sense, then why are we doing it? You know, there are a lot of things. There are a lot of times where people get these expensive degrees, and the income that they're making, the salaries that they're making after putting all those years in, it doesn't make sense why the compensation is not worth the input.
Interesting you say that, because what I realized, and this is kind of deep what I'm about to share. What happens with the World Bank and the IMF and what they do on the continent of Africa is basically what happens to many Americans when they sign up for massive student loans. So what the World Bank and IMF will do is require African countries and other countries, not just African countries, to take out debt for whatever the debt is. And this is a requirement. Oftentimes, the African countries that resist it, the president will be removed somehow, whether by coup, assassination, or some sort of expulsion. The president leaves and they come in and they put in who they want to put in. Y'all, you don't have to believe it. Go research it. So what I realized, I said a similar parallel in America is that when children come out of high school, you know, you don't have to spend $100,000 to get educated. Not a degree. You don't have to.
Right.
But what is made easy for them is to go take out $80,000 in student loans. No job, no guarantee. But if they try to go take out $80,000 business loan, now they have to show all of this proof, all of this. So it seems like a setup from the beginning to keep people in a different form of slavery, maybe financial slavery.
Bondage, yep.
Where they now can't make certain financial moves. Now, their ego feels good because I have a degree in this, and yes, I'm Dr. So-and-so, and I'm feeling all good about, you know. But when it really starts boiling down, the economics of how the world works, I see a similarity between what happens on the continent in other countries and what happens on an individual level in places like America when it comes to student debt in particular, because it's not secured or backed by anything. It's not like a house.
It's true.
It's like it's just a piece of paper that could be worth something or nothing depending on what's happening. So I mean, when you said that, it just sparked something. And this is a fascinating conversation. I knew it was going to be a fascinating conversation because I knew who I was talking to. When I heard her speak when we were in Sierra Leone, we had a ceremony, and you stood up and spoke, and you talked about some of the same feelings that you shared with me today about why you were excited to be at the citizenship ceremony and why you were excited to receive citizenship.
Yes.
But then you also talked about some of your feelings as it pertains to America. As we get ready to wrap this up, what words of encouragement could you offer to anyone watching, regardless of ethnicity, but in particular us? What words of encouragement can you offer?
I would just say, come to the continent, see for yourself, and there are a lot of things that you will be surprised about. That's what I'll say. Yeah, not to say that Africa doesn't have its trials and tribulations. Absolutely, but my thing is, it's such an unfair assessment on the continent to try to say that there should be nothing wrong, because there are things wrong in the States. You know, I feel like you have to pick your problems, I guess would be the best way of putting it. You know, for me, I'm very clear about the set of problems that I want to have, and I would much rather have the issues here and there that I experience on the continent than the soul-crushing issues that I was having with being in the U.S. I couldn't be there anymore. You know, it was like, wow, this is not, especially with that last year, going from, you know, summer 2020 on, it was just like, wow, I felt like everything was coming to a boiling point, and there were just more and more tears being shed for all the lives being lost. And I was like, this is not it. This is not where I want to raise my future children when I have them. This is not where I want to be in a long-term sense. So I much rather would prefer to have the smaller issues. For me, there's smaller issues of, not being able to find, an Impossible Burger at this grocery store, or different, different things about maybe the power cuts out here and there. Things like that I can deal with. What I can't deal with is the feeling that I had on a consistent basis in the U.S. of not being welcomed and being othered, constantly being othered, and in a land that, like, it's funny because you have people who their family have immigrated to the U.S. more recently than, we were brought to the U.S., stolen and kidnapped and brought to the U.S., and they are more welcomed and feel more at home than we do in a place that we've been for 3, 4, 5 times as long as them.
And it's by design.
Of course.
Yeah.
Because it's set up for certain people.
And divide and conquer.
Yeah, that's true.
When you think about how the colonizer worked, colonizer always sought to divide and highlight the differences in cultures, because then that would cause conflict. And I even see it on a level here when I see the different countries arguing with each other.
Right.
And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, it's like gangs in America who fight over turf they don't own. So they're arguing. I'm saying, y'all killing each other over turf you don't even own.
That's true.
Drugs you don't even own. Guns you don't even own. Somebody's playing your mind. And that's what I see in America. I see the same thing on the continent. When I see countries fighting, I'm saying those borders are artificial.
They are.
And it is a systemic plan to make sure that you highlight your differences and stay in that place. And so that's why I focus on bridging the gap. And say, look how we move and how we dance. Look at the foods that we eat. Listen, and when people,
so many similarities.
It's like
eerie, eerily similar.
When I go and I look, and that's why I'm able to love every place I go, because I'm not going there with the mindset of seeing how different are we. I'm saying or if I do see the differences, I can appreciate the differences. All right, or I recognize, let's say for example, education. They have the same education situation that we have, because the same colonizers are the ones who are educating them the way that we've been educated.
I mean, that's a whole nother.
I was trying to wrap it up. It just kept going.
But yeah, I have friends, good friends that I've made here in Kenya that have told me about boarding school is very popular here. That comes from, of course, the British and the colonization of the British.
There you go.
And the experiences that some of them, honestly, most of them have been horrific. Just the indoctrination of, to the point where you can't, you'll see often a lot of school girls with just shaved heads, because it's easier that way. Or also, I have friends who've told me that sometimes it's used as a form of punishment. If what she said was taking too long to get ready in the morning, and she went to a Catholic all girls boarding school, and
you said Catholic? Oh, okay.
Well, and she told me that it was seen as vanity if the girls were taking too long in the morning getting ready.
So now they're imposing that on them, I guess. Okay.
And she said that would often be a punishment for some girls. Like, okay, well, if you can't get your hair together in enough time, they would shave it for you, and you'd send back home on midterms or whatever with a shaved head. She also said that sometimes the parents would just do it because it was like, okay, it's easier to keep it this way in this style, rather than have you have to do your hair every morning, because you couldn't have locks like me. You couldn't have your hair just back in an Afro puff.
I'm gonna let you finish your point. I'm about to go in. I'm about to go in on something real quick.
No, because that wasn't seen as presentable. Your hair had to be presentable, and presentable was pressed, straightened, something in more of a European style, because our hair, the way that it grows out of our head, of course, wasn't presentable.
Yeah, I would, and I'm gonna say this publicly, because I apologize to my sons, because I sent them to a Christian school in the DC area. Riverdale Baptist School is where I sent them, and I regret it. And I'm gonna tell you why I regret it, because many of the same things that you say, they had those simple, ignorant policies for years about the hair. But the thing is that we were spending our money. Now, I take the hit for this, because this is the simplicity of it was like, that's their rules. But those were their European ideals.
Yep.
And so children who had particular hairstyles, and I know a friend of mine who was familiar with this particular system, and he has locks. And so now they allowed him to keep his locks when he was there, but why is it even an issue? You're a school that serves majority African children, but yet you're trying to get them to conform to these European ideals. Now, I don't know as of today what has happened, if they've changed it or not. I'll check in, I'll find out. But for years, and they're in the heart of Prince George's County, Maryland, with all of these black people, and we funded it, you know, and that for me is a part of the decolonization, to say, you know, we have to do better. The way to shut that mess down is to take our money out of there. So look, we want our children, but what they've done to us is they have, through colonization, conditioned us to hate our own hair.
Of course. And we have, you know, a lot of parents who still are instilling that in their kids. Like, yeah, you know, if you wear your hair in an afro, or wear your hair in locks, or, you know, kinky twist or something, some of your family will say, like, when are you going to comb your hair?
Absolutely.
When are you going to do something to it? It's like, wow, you know. So that's interesting. So my hair is okay or presentable when it's in a European style. So you're inherently telling your children that something is wrong with them. You know,
Every day.
it's not even things that are up for debate. Like, oh, I want my child to get this piercing, that tattoo. No, we're talking about the way that you were made.
Given natural,
God-given hair.
And
you're literally telling your children something's wrong with the way that God made your hair.
Yeah.
Because if it needs to be altered, I mean, it's to me, it's insane, you know. And we have this so much. I see it in I see it here, and I see it in the U.S. when it comes to the way that we as Black people think of ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, I luckily see this new generation breaking free from that, you know, and I
having
see
conversations like this.
Having conversations, you know, but it's you definitely still have, you know, parents back home saying, oh, well, you know, so and so, this daughter has good hair. That one, you know, her hair is too. It's
Absolutely.
And it's like, okay.
But we cry foul. But we cry racism. But we talk about how bad everything is without realizing how we reinforce many of those same things. Until we take pride in our own natural God-given features and abilities,
right,
then we'll always be exploited until we say, no, wait a minute. Until we go to Riverdale Baptist School. Because what I did with Riverdale Baptist School, a lot of people don't know.
Okay.
Once I found out about the whole Catholic involvement in slavery, most of us don't know that.
Oh, they were.
The Pope was the one who authorized it to start with the Portuguese. And Riverdale Baptist used to have the mascot of the Crusaders. And so the Crusaders, that was basically murder, that's terrorism. But our children were going to the school, Crusaders, with the little knight and the cross and everything. And once I understood, I went to them and I said, hey, what's up with this? And so the leadership, they recognized that it was a problem. So the white leadership, so you got a couple different things happening. You got the white leadership.
Yes.
Then you have the puppet black leadership. So I'm aware, now I don't care, you know. So it's like, and y'all can send this to them and everything. So what they were doing is basically having these, you know, this is what chivalry means, and this is what all of this is all about. And these black kids are saying Crusaders without knowing the role of the Catholic Church. Now, Riverdale Baptist, well, we're not Catholic. We're Baptist, which is a Protestant offshoot of Catholicism and all of that. So when I finally went to them and I said, listen, what you're doing with representing Crusaders is you're telling these people, one, you're representing murder and all of that. But one of the Crusades was authorized to start the transatlantic slave trade by Pope Nicholas V. Now, I'm expecting the Crusaders to know what their crusade thing means, but they don't know. So I go to the leader, the top, and he's like, I heard something about this in seminary, but I didn't realize that it was that deep. So I said, well, what are we going to do to change this? Well, I got to talk to so-and-so, and I have to figure out what so-and-so, and I said, hold on. I'm going to do the dance with you, but we're going to change his name. It wasn't even up for discussion. So I sat down with the puppet black leadership, and when I sat down with them, I said, all right, we're all around the same age. They graduated from there. I said, well, what's up with this? I said, what's going on? They said, we know it's wrong. I said, well, what y'all doing? Well, our hands are tied.
Our hands are tied.
Well, their hands were tied because they were being paid by these people. So who controls the money? They control their paycheck. I said, cool. I said, well, I still got one left in here. I said, let me deal with this. And I went back to the leadership and I said, listen, I said, I'm not sitting here having a conversation asking you to change the name. You don't have to change the name, but I will make sure that every black person in this county understands, all the people that are spending money, the students, the teachers, the administrators, all these black people understand what this represents. The leader that I was talking to at the time, he came to his senses.
Okay.
Because he understood it boiled down to the dollars. And he understood that I had no problem using whatever platform to say, hey, we need to rectify this. And so, to his credit, he agreed to remove the Crusader mascot from that school. You'll go some places and still see it because of the expense that goes along with it. But my point in all of this is, until we put our foot down and recognize the power of our dollars,
yes,
they'll tell us that we have to cut our hair. Now I need to go check into this hair thing now, because back in the day they had this hair thing, and I know they tell us, well, you got to cut your hair, and I understand you got to have some sort of you want to have your folks looking presentable, but you can have presentable locks. You can have presentable, if it's natural.
But my thing is, even with that, right? You know, if my hair grows up to the sky,
then that's your hair.
Then that's my hair.
That's your hair.
So even that, I'm like, I'm not with the regulating, the presentable,
just let it go how it is.
I mean, because they don't have to do anything to their hair. Their hair grows down.
That's right.
They get up. They go to school.
And they go in there with shorts on, with t-shirts on, and whatever, however they feel like going, and they go. And
right.
That's true.
So that's my thing, because it's like they're not asking that of them. They're not asking, you know, if you're a little white girl and your hair grows straight down, then you can get up, brush your teeth, put on your uniform, and walk into the school.
Right.
You know, but if I am as a little black girl, if I were going to that school and my hair is growing to the sky, you know, growing to the sun, growing to the heavens, that's a problem. You know, so.
But that's a big debate that's even happening on the continent.
Yes.
I mean, there are schools that are, I guess, it's government-regulated schools. A friend of mine was telling me some of what she's seen over the years, and how they'll make them cut their hair short.
Right.
And they'll say that it's for maintenance purposes. You know, it's easier to maintain.
But also that, because talking to some of my friends who went to school so early that they didn't know how to, you know, maintain their hair. Because they're entering into this boarding school system, some of them at the age of 7, and they don't know how to plait their hair, do cornrows, you know, keep pushing, do a little style, so yeah, that's part of it. Even that is going back to that system, that white supremacist system of even taking them away from their families so young, and putting them into those schools where it's like, okay, well, you know, if you're 14, you probably do know how to maintain your hair, but when you're 7, you don't.
It's not a priority. You don't even care. You just gotta get up and doing your thing. You know? You're like, hey, I'm 7.
Even that goes back to that, because that's when you take kids away from their base teachings, you know, at that age, and put them in these white supremacist schools, these European focused based schools, that's a part of it, you know.
And then they come home to parents who have those European minds, meaning black parents who reinforce those same things. You know, so in other words, they'll go to these schools, and the schools say that this is what it is. Then they come home, and the parents say, yes, this is what it is. And then the child grows up thinking, yes, this is what it is. Unless they're you, of course, and then break free from it. But I'm hoping that our young folks will break free. And I hope parents right now that you understand, just conversations like this we need to have. We could go on and on and on and on, but it's conversations like this that we need to have so that we can assess what it is that we're doing and what has influenced us and why things are the way they are. I mean, in the comments, I know people can add much more to it, but, and I will leave it at this. One of the things that someone said in a comment, because I did an interview with a lady and we were talking about the whole white Jesus and the white wigs with the judges and
how that's still going on.
How it's still going on. And then there were people who were like, well, we have more pressing problems than that. And I push back strongly to say that if you're following those images and you don't understand why that's important, you'll never solve the other issues, because at the core of someone's belief system is their faith. And then when you begin to, and this is the other part, and I find it so fascinating, you look at the different systems that have influenced the continent of Africa and America and Europe and South America. We can go through the education system, white supremacists. If you're following a white Jesus, and people will be quick to say, well, I'm not looking at a color, but you're still following the European system and interpretations and language. You're still following that. You're reading it in English. In which it was never written in English. You're following the preachers who have been indoctrinated by European seminaries. So when you begin to go to the education aspect, when you begin to go to now you go to the judicial level, and they'll say, well, there's nothing wrong with the white wigs, with the preachers. Now, you see this in British colonies. You don't see this in French colonies so much. I haven't seen it in French colonies. I've seen it in British colonies. So what they'll say is that, well, we want to be free from colonial, the colonial rule and colonial, well, you have to eradicate the system. And if you're wearing their wigs, if you're wearing, and this is a sensitive topic. I had one lady come for me on IG, I can't stand you African Americans. Leave us alone, leave us alone. It's like, well, you're good. All right, do the white wig and do the white Jesus. Do you? Ain't nobody, I'm just talking to the people who saying they're ready to break free from it and they recognize the influence. I'm not telling you what to worship. I'm just saying, if you're going to complain or understand the root causes of it and recognize it when you see it, why are black people wearing white people's wigs?
Yeah.
That is a real question.
I'll say both of them, like your everyday one, the everyday white wig, and the actual judicial, blonde curled, judge's wig. They're both, it's hard to separate. You can't really separate white supremacy from all of the, it has branches.
It's white supremacy.
Right, it's white supremacy, and we're just looking at different branches of it. Yeah. And I know some people only want to talk about, the treatment when it comes to a specific concrete case, but we're also, it's more than just the treatment. It's also the remnants everywhere. It's the going to the Catholic Church and having a little blonde baby on the priest's robe.
Yeah. Or the Protestant church to have the little white Jesus looking up in the air to the sky. You got all these brown people. You're like, what's going on?
All of these things matter because it's what you see from the time that you're a child.
Right.
And we know how influential your surroundings are. We know how important representation is for children. So to raise a child, seeing these things, seeing these remnants of colonization and white supremacy, it shapes their thoughts. Yeah. It shapes their beliefs.
It's real because of how when people come for me when I bring up this topic, I was like, wow, this thing is really entrenched. That's what led me to talk about how I'm meeting so many black people who are white supremacists.
And I'm sure a great number of them don't even know it.
Oh no, they don't know it until you start showing them the subtleties of it. The one thing about white supremacy and European supremacy is that it's subtle. Sometimes it's in your face. Racism, blatant racism. Now you don't deal with that so much on the continent. Like in America, we'll deal with that thing in your face, nigga this, nigga that, get out of here, But the subtleties is what I see on the continent. With the white Jesus image, with the wigs, with the colonial buildings, with the colonial systems. Somebody was like, well, I'm not going to mention the country, but they were like, well, our president ain't going to do such and such, and our president did the Constitution, and our president did X, Y, Z. And I'm saying, but it's all patterned after the British. It is a British system It is a British system. It is not indigenous to those people, to those ethnic groups that originate in those particular countries. It is a French system. It is a Portuguese system, depending on an Italian system, whoever it was. And it's like these systems, and they get, I watch people get caught up, just like how we do in America. We get caught up in our politicians and believing that they're going to come in and do something, and without understanding the impact of what colonization did. One of those presidents step out of line. That's why I say I used to talk when I talked to Force, and I said the illusion of independence. Because people will say, "Oh, we're independent, we're independent." Let that president step out of line. Watch what happens.
Let's see if he'll be back for next.
Oh yeah,
time.
well, go to Haiti. What happened with in Ghana with Kwame Nkrumah? When he stepped out of line, he was overthrown. By who?
By who?
The United States. Now, people don't want to hear that. And, you know, of course, he wasn't all popular with everybody. But I've heard people say that, why did they were upset with Kwame Nkrumah. And I'm not on anybody's side. I'm just looking at facts. I'm like you.
Right.
Kwame Nkrumah ran the British out of here, and they should have left them here because they would have developed it more. I've heard people say this.
Wow.
And I said, well, first of all, Kwame Nkrumah did not have the power to run the British out. That's the first thing. Because he has no military, or had no military to run anybody out. So when, and I always go back to whoever has the military is who calls the shots. So these figureheads, and I
are just that.
Are just figureheads. And I encourage people, I say, please, please, please. They say these governments, these African governments, these corrupt African governments, that's another play that the colonizer uses because they operate behind the scenes. It's no different than what they do in big cities in America. So you have all the black cities with the black mayors, the black city council, the black school board, and the same problems. Cycle after cycle after cycle. So it makes you wonder who's controlling the money. Who's really calling the shots? America.
And you always have to follow money. You know? I mean...
So you got me started. I was trying to have a nice interview, and I was trying to be, and I know we was ran all over time and everything. Look, I'm gonna let you. No, what we gonna say? I'm gonna let you finish. I'll be done. You got me started.
No, it's okay.
Right.
One thing I wanted to hit on. I know there are a lot of times where I know you'd asked me before. How do I feel about white people in general?
Yes, please do. Because it could come across like you.
Right. And so I'm of the mindset to where I can't speak of any group as a monolith. You know, I have white friends. I know white people where I'm like, okay, this is a good person. They've proved to me that they're a good person. But it's also very important to me that the white people that are in my space are very clearly against racism. You know, and a lot of the conversations I can have with you about racism, I can have with people, white people I would consider my friends. I can have those same conversations with them.
So you mean to tell me that you're not trying to now all of a sudden become white because you have white friends? I mean, you're not trying to do that? Is that not what's happening? Are you not losing your blackness? Is that what's going on?
Not at all, not at all. But yeah, I mean, the for me that doesn't. It's not that I don't want, you know, I don't want to speak or have any interaction with white people. That's not it for me. But I definitely notice the effects of being othered in an environment, especially as a child growing up in an environment where you're not represented. I definitely wanted to make a move to where I could have my future children in a place where they could see themselves all around, where they could see doctors that look like them, teachers that look like them, you know, presidents that look like them. Okay. That was something that I wanted to do, planning for my offspring's future. Yes, but I definitely have. I'm comfortable in with my white friends, particularly because I've chosen to have white people in my space that understand, or they're not trying to gaslight me about what my experience is. They understand that yes, racism does exist and it is a problem, and they've made it one of their priorities to see how they can contribute to eradicating that.
Understood.
You know, I've had conversations with some white friends, some Asian friends that are like, yeah, you know, what can I do about that? what's a way that you just trying to get my opinion, just trying to, gauge, like, what would you recommend I do about X, Y, and Z? Because it's important to them, and you will find those people. And I've made it a point to keep people like that around me. And people that refuse, I have to say refuse, because in this day and age, it's a blatant refusal.
Okay.
If you're saying, oh, no, I don't see racism. No, that's in the past. Those type of people, I make it a point to not have them in my space, because there's enough gaslighting that happens in America as a whole, that comes from the nation as a whole. I don't need people like that around me.
Got it.
So, yeah.
All right. This has been a fascinating conversation. All right, how many languages do you speak? We will wrap it up on this. How many languages do you speak? Give me a little bit of French. Go ahead, a little French.
No, I don't. So I speak English and Spanish,
Okay,
and I speak some French. I did go to immersion when I lived in Canada for a while, in Montreal.
Okay.
But
where'd you live?
In Canada, in Quebec, in Montreal.
Oh, see, that's I heard some of that. You know how we say it in Montreal. Montreal, Canada.
Yeah.
Right, so my DC vernacular.
Yes.
Right. So Montreal. Where else? Give me some Spanish.
Yeah, Spanish. It's vale, pues. ¿Qué quieres que digo?
Okay. Muy bien.
Okay.
Buenas noches. No. Buenos días.
Buenos días.
Buenos días.
Sí.
Okay. It's okay. Give me something else. You speak a little bit of
I'm
Swahili.
learning Swahili now. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Ninaishi Nairobi. Okay. Oh, well. Okay. I would tell you karibu,
Okay.
because I'm welcoming you to Kenya. Karibu, Kenya.
Asante sana.
Okay, you did that well. Yes.
Okay. Aquaba.
Oh, now you're taking it over.
I took it back to the
Taking
west.
it.
To the west side.
I'm like, wait, that's
to the west side.
That's Ghana. I'm
That's
like,
right.
yeah.
Aquaba. Madasi. See?
Madasi.
Oh, so you only speak Spanish?
Yeah, I speak English and
Fluent.
Spanish fluently.
Okay.
Yes.
But you got some French.
The French. Also, okay, so the Italian, when I'm in Italy,
You speak Italian?
No, I don't speak Italian, but it is quite easy to understand because it's so similar to the Spanish. Same with French. It's really easy for me to understand written French because it's so similar to the Spanish.
Understood.
Yeah.
All right.
So, but just the two mainly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. I'm here talking to Simone Hardy. She is living here in Nairobi, Kenya, and actually met her in Sierra Leone. We both have dual citizenship in Sierra Leone, and I felt that she would offer a wealth of insight. We covered so much, and I'm sure the comments, as we let this roll, I'm sure the comments are going to be on fire. But that's what it's all about here at Maximum Impact. That's what we're doing. We're bridging the gap. We're not dancing around these different topics. We're not a channel that sits here to purposely avoid topics to gain followers. People who follow this channel are willing to learn, willing to teach, willing to share, because we don't want all of us collectively, regardless of ethnicity, to be walking around ignorant. I tell people all the time, I was raised by, or let me say it like this, white people played a part in raising me. So that's why I don't do or think monolithically, because I know individuals can treat you differently. I grew up in Black America, and in many places in Black America, the most foul, corrupt, shady, scandalous people were so-called black people towards me. So if I look at like black is supposed to be the thing that just brings us all together, I'm gonna be disappointed. But when I start taking it case by case, and I take people as how they treat me and how we establish our relationship, life is much more fulfilling. Not naive. I recognize the ethnic challenges that we have, but I recognize the class challenges that we have, socioeconomic challenges that we have, the colonization challenges that we have, and hopefully conversations like this will help us all to be uplifted and to really see the truth of the matter. And so, Simone, I want to thank you for joining me today. And where can we find you on social media? Because I know you're out there somewhere.
Yes, definitely. So my IG handle, my Instagram handle is Ms. Powertrip, ms.powertrip. Also, my website is Miss Powertrip. So yeah, I'm all about where can I find my own power? What can I do to make change in different environments and scenarios? Whether that comes about my through my fitness, my health, my nutrition. I'm plant-based.
We didn't even
so,
talk about that.
Oh.
We didn't talk about that. She's plant-based. She's serious about her fitness. I mean, oh, wow.
Yes.
I'm slipping
So
on my
are we-
game. I'm slipping.
So are we-
I'm slipping. Okay, hold on. All right, we're wrapping that up. Just you're plant-based.
Yes.
Why?
The most accurate answer I can give when anyone asks me that is my decision to. I'm recently plant-based. I started that actually when COVID hit. That's when I decided that
Oh, wow.
veganism was
Okay.
for me. But for years before that, I was vegetarian from beginning of 2016.
So difference between vegetarian and vegan. A lot of
Yes.
times people don't know the
Okay,
difference.
so for a vegetarian, you're not eating any meat or fish, but you are eating other animal products. So that can be dairy, as in milk. You can be eating cheese, cream, if in different different foods, different recipes, but not any meat or fish. For the vegan has eliminated all of that. So you're not eating milk anymore, sour cream, cheese, which was a big
Thing for you.
X for me because
Okay.
I was like, I love my cheese.
Okay.
But yeah, so it was just a decision to eliminate that,
Now,
just to
some
take it
people
to
say-
another step of there's certain things that we know about what these things produce in your body, and I didn't want any additional mucus in my body, especially at the start of this COVID. We didn't really have a lot of information,
So you
and
just
I
wanted
was
to be
like,
healthy as
yeah, I
possible.
was just like, let me just try to remove myself from those statistics. And if someone asked me why did I start on this this journey of being a vegetarian and then vegan, it was because the easiest way for me to categorize it is out of protest. I started it out of protest because I just saw, it was very clear to me the progression in our communities, in Black communities, going from what we were, first of all, the foods that were placed in our neighborhoods, the restaurants that were placed in our neighborhoods by design, and seeing how consuming those foods led to so many diseases, and those diseases led to so much profit for these pharmaceutical companies, for the
Right.
healthcare industry,
Right.
and led for us to early deaths,
And we were already bred and brought here to be expendable anyway. So.
right. So it just just understanding that whole system was what really made me want to take myself out of it. And that just is another element of me finding my power where I can find it, where I see it. And maybe at the time, especially when I started this journey, the first thing I did was I said, I'm not going to eat meat before noon. It was a small step, but I remember taking that step at 22.
Okay.
And so I was like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. Just I don't have to have meat for every meal, not for every single meal, so that's the first thing I did. Then that led to me not eating pork anymore. And then it was, okay, well, I'm not going to eat any red meat. Then it was, then I will say the biggest jump in my consumption of meat was I decided not to buy meat myself. I would eat it occasionally if I were out, but I
But
was
you
like,
wouldn't
I'm
bring it
not
in the
going to
household.
bring it in the house. So that was the biggest jump, because that took me from eating meat, pretty much every day out of the year to eating meat 20, 30 times a year.
So there's a gradual reduction. Now, some people say that veganism is a religion. I've heard people say veganism is a religion.
Okay, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
Like if you, I feel like anything you believe and follow could be a religion.
Okay.
This could be a religion for someone. I don't consider it
A religion for you.
but I definitely consider it something that is going to prolong my life.
So it's a
And
lifestyle.
For
So for
it's a
you, it's
lifestyle.
not a religion; it's a lifestyle.
It's not a religion, but it is a lifestyle, and I do feel like, especially if I look at it as, especially for Black people, and we know that there are some who don't want us to have long life. So I look at me ensuring the longevity of my life as a slap in the face to some.
Got it.
And
that's part of your protest. That's
it's
part
part of my protest.
It all ties into everything that you've talked about, even
Right.
when it comes to America and the treatment that you felt over the years. Because a lot of times, some of the issues that people have had when people do plant-based, lifestyles, they feel as though those who do a plant-based lifestyle are trying to impose that lifestyle on others. Are you a vegan imposer, or how?
I would say I'm a healthy eating imposer.
Okay.
I guess, or when I can't say impose because I'm not in charge of what anyone eats, but as far as trying to get people to think about what they're doing, I see the biggest challenge personally with my family. I grew up in a family, my mom was born in Auburn, Alabama. That's just what it was. We
AU.
came, yeah, indeed. So, she was, that's, they,
Roll Tide. No, I better not say
oh,
that.
oh,
I do
all right
fight
now.
words out here. I do know a little something about that there. So you grew up in that environment, and they were eating
right. That's what they came from. Grandparents on my mom's side came from Alabama. Grandparents on my dad's side came from Mississippi. They had that cultural way of cooking that involved a lot of unhealthy foods. I grew up eating chitlins and hog maws and pig feet and just all of it, all the grease, all the lard. It was all in there. And I will say my mom did make sure to have what she considered a balanced diet. And I say that because there's a lot of things that we know now as far as just as far as health wise, science over the decades, things that might not have been the best, but for her, she always made sure we had fruit, vegetable with every meal, And so even though now we know that of the majority of Black people are lactose intolerant, but for her at the time, she didn't have that knowledge. So I grew up drinking milk heavily and all of these things,
Vitamin D, whole milk.
Or I think it was 2%.
Oh, 2%
that was
by the time you came along.
It was 2%.
Okay, but I came up with whole milk.
Whole milk, all the fat.
It's like it all just
yes.
at the top. You leave it out too long, it just separates.
But she worked with the information she had, and she had this that food chart, and she tried to stick to it. Tried to make sure we had all of that bread, all that giant portion of bread at the bottom, all of that. So, but what she did do a lot was cook. And I know now I see more and more kids that are so accustomed to fast food. They don't know what
a cooked meal is like.
Right.
Because they're going to Popeyes and everything else.
Right.
Yeah.
So just her actually cooking fresh food was definitely instrumental in the nutrients that I received as a child, and it's also very instrumental in how I still, prepare my meals as far as just being accustomed to cooking for myself. I'm not the kind of person where it's like, oh, I don't have time to eat, so let me just go grab some. Like I don't eat fast food. That was before I was giving up meat and everything. Before, when I was still eating meat, I wasn't eating fast food.
Got you.
I was like, I'm not eating that.
You don't even
That's
know
not
what that
meat.
meat is.
No, and it's not.
By the time you put the pink slime in it, and because they have this stuff called pink slime, they put in it, and it's like ammonia to kill the bacteria in the meat.
Because it's full of bacteria.
And I was like, well, it's like, the heat won't kill it. That's
and
what I'm thinking of myself.
When you see some of these plants and factories and what these animals go through, you understand why there's so much bacteria in the meat.
Filthy. It's basically a dump.
It's a dump, and there's actual garbage that some of these animals are eating, and you're eating the animal. And we all know you are what you eat. Yeah. So it's like I just had a issue even before when I was still eating meat. I was like, I'm not eating that.
That kind of meat.
That's not meat.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah.
And when you see these YouTube videos where people have a McDonald's hamburger
and
or
it sits for 50 years.
Yes, and they find it in their winter coat after they put everything up, and they find it, the next winter, and it still looks exactly the same, just maybe a little shrunken.
Yeah, it's a problem.
That's not meat. That's not food. Food, it breaks down.
Yeah, it should.
And you have a lot of our food, especially in the U.S., is engineered so that it doesn't break down. Shelf life is important because that's what profit.
It goes back to that money.
Right. And so it amazes me how someone could have something that can sit on the shelf and not break down. But you think that when you eat it, it's going to break down? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Well. So, yes, I definitely wanted to remove myself from being a statistic altogether. I wanted to take myself out of that. And I'm just like, I'm not giving this money to big pharma. I'm not giving this money to these insurance companies for being in and out of the hospital. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to be on this list. And the way that I see my biggest area of power in that is by just changing what I put into my body, and also of the exercise. I'm very big on exercise, very big on fitness. Yeah.
I tell you, I get to meet some of the most fascinating people traveling the world, and you are, I believe, the 4th vegan that I've had an opportunity to interview.
Awesome.
And no one has tried to impose anything on me. But all of you have similar stories. And Nashiki, she was on one of our tours, and she talked about how she had a lot of female health challenges, and when she adopted the vegan lifestyle, it went away. Harriet talked about some of the health challenges she had, and how her lifestyle has helped her.
Yep.
And fitness, all these different things. There's certain things, but when you talk about how you don't want to fund big pharma,
I don't. I refuse.
That is something. That's just another piece to this puzzle. And no one has been, no one has tried to push it on me and shame me for getting a piece of chicken or whatever, or whatever. It's like everybody has their process and their journey. Everybody's not going to be vegan, but at least if we start thinking about our health and how we may contribute to big pharma, so it's like certain things along the way. Well,
and I definitely try to, especially for my family who they are Christians, I try to make it. I hear a lot of the rhetoric about as soon as something goes wrong with their bodies, they're saying the prayers for health and deliverance from that issue, but they're not seeing what they've done to contribute to that issue. When it's it's the devil that gave them this diabetes, gave them this cancer, took their leg, but their solution is to pray to God to help them for the thing that they have done to create that issue. So I just want, once again, going back to truth, we need to be realistic and truthful about what is causing, what's causing these issues in our lives, especially in our community, because we see such a high occurrence of diabetes, hypertension, renal disease. In our communities, this is what we're dealing with at a much higher rate. And I just want us to be as knowledgeable and empowered as possible about how we can change some of those ailments from our actions, not through prayer, but through our habits and what we're eating and what we're teaching our offspring to eat, because it's very, very evident, you know.
Because sometimes it doesn't take prayer to say, I'm just not going to eat this or eat that.
Right.
Sometimes it's just a practical approach to use the brain that God gave you. To give you a wise decision.
And also, I'm very, it's disheartening when I hear people, people who are Christians and who believe in the Bible and who say that the body is a temple, but you're treating it as a dumpster. It's like you can't. I'm sorry, but it doesn't align to me.
It doesn't add up.
It doesn't add up because if your body is a temple, you shouldn't be putting garbage in it. And there's certain things, like if we want to go back just to the truth, there's certain things we can prove what they are. We can prove they cause cancer. We can prove they're carcinogens, but we're still ingesting them. So it's disheartening, to say the least.
Well, I will say this. You have offered a wealth of knowledge and insight and wisdom today. And when I come back to Kenya, I guess we'll have to pick this up. Or I catch you in Sierra Leone.
Yes.
One of those places. So I've been talking to Simone Hardy. And again, all of her information will be in the description where you can follow her. And please comment. I love the comments because it just gives us this ability to converse and to dialogue and to improve one another. And again, thank you. Make sure you subscribe, like, share. We've talked about a lot of different things. So make sure that you play your part by, hey, maybe this is a conversation. Maybe you can pick out a certain part in the discussion that you can share with someone. But make sure that you hit that subscribe button. Make sure that you click share, and let's keep this conversation going. So, Simone, thank you again.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Take care. See you next time.
Bye.
Open up.
Adventures of Darren and Destiny. And Darren and Destiny are twin brother and sister, and you go on their adventures throughout the African diaspora, meaning so African diaspora destinations, primarily focused in Africa, but we go to South America, we're going to go to the Caribbean. Their first book is going to take you to Ghana, and then we're going to go on a safari, and from there we're going to go to Ethiopia, and then we go to Salvador, Brazil. And what the goal is to be able to inspire curiosity in the continent of Africa, in our children from a very young age, and to really tell a more accurate story. Most of our children are exposed to negative images, late night infomercials about how bad things are, everybody's sick, everybody's poor, everyone's uneducated, but that's simply not true. So what Darren and Destiny and their family do is they go to different African destinations. They are learning about these different places. You're beginning to see positive images, but still telling the truth. I mean, that's the important thing, to tell the truth about some of the things that have occurred. But it's all done on our children's level so they begin to understand it. And it begins to pique their curiosity. They begin to learn more. And hopefully one day they will want to explore and visit the continent of Africa and its many countries. There's just so much that Darren and Destiny are able to do, and as they're doing it, it's like they begin to open the minds of a new generation, and they don't get bombarded and indoctrinated with negativity. They're actually able to see positivity and inspiring images and messages about the African diaspora, as well as those who are still indigenous to the continent of Africa, and they begin to learn more and just see things differently. So I'm excited about introducing the Adventures of Darren and Destiny.